Ladies and gentlemen, we have the privilege of and the opportunity of hearing President Musharraf about the situation in Pakistan. Pakistan is at the front line of the assault by Islamic radicalism on moderate elements within the Muslim world and on civil institutions of the West. Pakistan has been America's ally in the war on terror, yet some segments of the Pakistan population have a different view. Pakistan has helped fight Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, yet there are some Taliban forces on Pakistan's territory. Pakistan has cooperated with the United States on important enterprises, and I personally will always be grateful for the role that Pakistan played in facilitating and organizing the secret trip to China of 1971, which brought about a reversal of the freeze between China and the United States. We are now witnessing a period of considerable political controversy in Pakistan, and we are grateful to President Musharraf to have taken the time to spend with us. The President will make some remarks, and I'm supposed to ask one or two questions, and then we will try to return to the schedule, which is usually violated at great peril in this institution. So, Mr. President, it is a privilege to introduce you here, and we are grateful to you for giving us the time.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much, Most Honorable Mr. Henry Kissinger. It is my very proud privilege to be talking of my country, my passion, Pakistan, and giving you certain realities, especially so because I feel that we are a victim of misperceptions and distortions. But since I'm running short for time, in spite of the fact that I'm going to talk of Pakistan, but I would like to recapitulate what Dr. Henry Kissinger started, and I would like to recapitulate back in July 1971. Pakistan facilitated a very important event at that time. That is the breaking of thaw between the United States and China, in that Dr. Henry Kissinger went to China in a Pakistan International Airlines flight on 6 July 1971. And that was the time when there was a tussle in China between pragmatists and radicals. Had this visit not materialized, which led to the pragmatists like Mr. Zhou Enlai coming up in China, and the improvement of relations that followed between the United States and China, maybe the radicals could have reasserted, and maybe the Cold War would have extended far beyond what we've seen its end in 1989. So therefore, that was the role that Pakistan played. But I've said this specially because I believe, sir, that Prime Minister Zhou Enlai at that time asked the United States, never forget the bridge that facilitated that, and that was Pakistan. It is an unfortunate reality that in 1990s the bridge was forgotten. With this, let me come to Pakistan, to the realities of today. I'll take you to a very short trip to Pakistan. First of all, Pakistan is strategically located in the East Gulf and Middle East, in the north, Afghanistan and Central Asian republics, northeast China, and east is India and South Asia. So this strategic location actually gives Pakistan the capability of acting as a trade and energy corridor. Any kind of interaction between these regions is not possible without Pakistan. That is the strategic importance of Pakistan. And also, in view of the terrorism and extremism going on in this region, anything that happens in the region, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in the borders of Afghanistan and Pakistan, has an impact on the whole region, and may I also dare to say, may have an impact in the streets of Europe. Therefore, its significance and importance. Since 1999, when I came on the scene, ladies and gentlemen, we have tried to take Pakistan forward from the state of a failed or a defaulted state. Without going into details, the first issue that we addressed was the economy of Pakistan. And may I very confidently and proudly say that today Pakistan's economy from that failed state level is on an upsurge, where we've had a 7% growth every year since the last 5 years. I will leave it at this. All other macroeconomic indicators today are positive, so much so that Merrill Lynch for this year projects a growth of 6.8%. In spite of whatever has happened, in spite of anything that you may be thinking, the turmoil in Pakistan or in the region. And if you see The Economist, the last page, they show Pakistan growth this year is 7%. So we are proud of this performance. Then the other issue that I would like to highlight very briefly, and I take pride in saying that we have introduced the essence of democracy in Pakistan. To touch briefly, we have empowered the people of Pakistan through a local government system which was not there before. We have empowered the women of Pakistan by giving them reserved seats at every tier of the parliament. We have empowered the minorities of Pakistan by giving them joint electorate. So we have actually gone into giving the essence of democracy. Today, there is a chief election commissioner and an election commission which is functioning well. Today, there is an election system, which I'll talk of very briefly, which itself inherently is fair and transparent. Then we liberated the media. And I take pride in saying that. There used to be only one Pakistan television channel in Pakistan. Today there are 50 channels operating. And the media, the electronic and print media, is totally independent. If any one of you reads our newspapers, or if any one of you sees the talk shows on our television channels, you will bear this. I can assure you that you will find the independence of the media. Then we fought terrorism and extremism. We are still fighting that. We are fighting this in a very holistic manner. Maybe we are the only country which has understood terrorism and extremism in its larger context. We are fighting terrorism on a multi-pronged strategy. Multi-pronged being military, political, and socio-economic. We are fighting the Al-Qaeda and we are fighting the militant Taliban through this strategy. We are also addressing the issue of extremism from our society, which is a state of mind. It requires a different strategy, and we have a strategy for that also, which is under implementation. Maybe it's a long-term strategy, but we have the strategy in place. We are a nuclear state, and it is just unfortunate that we are seen to be unstable, that our nuclear assets can fall into wrong hands, into the hands of the terrorists. This is an Islamic bomb that Pakistan has. I really don't understand why the world calls it an Islamic bomb, and why there is no Hindu bomb or a Jew bomb or a Christian bomb or a Buddhist bomb. Why is this bomb an Islamic bomb? I don't understand. And the man in the street in Pakistan does not understand this. This was because of our defensive compulsions. We had a threat, we visualized the threat, we used to balance the threat out, quantified it in terms of force levels. But when the threat graduated beyond the conventional levels and got into the unconventional area, we had to balance out that threat again. And that is how Pakistan went nuclear. However, having said that, now that we are a nuclear state, let me assure this House that we have multi-layered custodial controls established in accordance with the best international practices. And there is no way that these assets can fall into the hands of the terrorists. We have seen turbulence in the last 1 year, ladies and gentlemen, in spite of all the growth, in spite of all the positives that we have gone through in the past 7-8 years. I would like to just comment. Let me assure you that I have always upheld the law and the Constitution of Pakistan. So therefore, any criticism coming up, first of all, see what is the law and Constitution of Pakistan. Please don't see us with your Constitution and your law. So I have upheld the laws and Constitution of Pakistan. The other thing that I want to just make a passing reference, when one is faced with an extraordinary circumstance meaning that the government is paralyzed, meaning that the law enforcement agencies are demoralized in their fight against terrorism, and the terrorists are being encouraged, meaning that the democratic transition towards election is being derailed, meaning that the sovereignty of the parliament is being violated and challenged, meaning that the nation as a whole becomes despondent on what is happening to Pakistan. And as a result of all this, the upsurge in economy seeing a stalling and maybe a downward trend. What does one do under such challenging, extraordinary circumstances? Extraordinary measures had to be taken. And I'm very proud of the fact that we put everything back on rail. It had to be done. And all that I would like to urge everyone here in this audience to understand that the ultimate gauge of judging a country is how the economy of the country, the socio-economic sector is performing, how the well-being, welfare, progress of the nation and the people is being affected by the government and the country, and that are we going for political stability through a well thought out democratic process in accordance with that country's environment. That is where one needs to judge a country by, and that should be the gauge for any judgments, because after all, democracy, human rights have to serve the people. The people are not there to serve this. So therefore, there has to be an understanding, there has to be, the priority has to go to well-being, progress, development of the country and the well-being of its people. Lastly, I would like to come, having, as I said, put the derailed democratic process back on rail, where we were going to have elections on the 8th of January, but the unfortunate, most unfortunate assassination of Benazir Bhutto again came as an obstacle in the way. And the mayhem that followed, unfortunately, it was not possible for the Election Commission to hold the elections on 8th January. Therefore, they've been postponed to 18 February. Let me assure this House that the elections will be held on 18 February. They will be free, fair, transparent, and peaceful. When I say free, fair, and transparent, let me tell this House inherently that the system is free and fair. If anybody asks me a question later on, I would be too glad to answer why I say that it is inherently free and fair. That much for the present. The last word on the future of Pakistan. I firmly believe that there are three courses that we must follow, keep following. Number one, that this democratic transition and the elections on 18 February must lead to a very stable government, a politically reconciled government. Number two, that the economic upsurge in Pakistan must be maintained. And lastly, we must carry on our fight against terrorism and extremism. We hope that with the resilience that Pakistan has shown all along, right from our creation in 1947, the people of Pakistan will rise to the occasion, and we will, as I said, on these three counts, we will succeed. And Pakistan will remain a stable, strong, democratic, dynamic Islamic state. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. President, I belong to those who have greatly appreciated the role that Pakistan played after 9/11, and also the speech you made in January 2002 attacking fundamentalism, the role of the religious schools in fomenting fundamentalism. The question that is often put in the West is about the presence of Taliban and Al-Qaeda forces on Pakistan territory, even at a time when the position of the Pakistan government has been unambiguously to fight Al-Qaeda and Taliban. Maybe some explanation of how this condition could arise would be of interest.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me first of all tell you what is the overall concept of how we are fighting this terrorism and extremism. The strategy against Al-Qaeda and militant Taliban: defeat Al-Qaeda militarily. There is no way. They are foreigners. They have no right to be in Pakistan. Taliban, or the militant Taliban, are our own people. Therefore, what we need to do is wean away the population, number one, from the militant Taliban, those who are for peace and they are not for militancy. Don't let them remain at the mercy of those who are for militancy. Wean them away. Secondly, do not allow any militant Taliban, anybody, to indulge in cross-border movement between Afghanistan and Pakistan, whether to go to support the Taliban on the other side or be hosts to Taliban coming from Afghanistan to Pakistan. That is our strategy for addressing Al-Qaeda and Taliban. And how we are doing this? Now, how far are we successful? We have adopted a multi-pronged strategy, as I said. Military, any militancy is being struck with force. And in this, we have total cooperation between United States intelligence and Pakistan intelligence. Total cooperation. We have total cooperation at the strategic level and tactical level between forces operating on both sides of the border, the Pakistan forces and the ISAF. So therefore, good coordination is there, exists there. May I tell you, may I surprise you by saying that on the Pakistan side, while the Al-Qaeda was in our cities in hundreds, and we succeeded in almost eliminating them, about 600-700 of them have been eliminated, no more in our cities. They were in our valleys in hundreds, in the valleys of the tribal agencies. They are not there anymore because of our operations. They are in the mountains, but in much smaller numbers. So this is the success against the Al-Qaeda. The militant Taliban also, they did spread out and tried to spread Talibanization into settled districts of the frontier. But we acted against them with force, with additional military force. And we succeeded in areas of Swat. And we succeeded in sealing the border, where we've established 1,000 posts, and even we have fenced the border in certain areas. The success is in the fact that ISAF says that the cross-border movement from Pakistan into Afghanistan has reduced by 42%. This is the success of what our strategy is taking place. I would say it is the desperation of these people that is now visible in the form of suicide attacks against Benazir, against all political leaders, against me, the threat against me. So this is their desperation, that they must get rid of this government or the people who are for whatever we are doing. So that is our success. And the third element I would like to leave, because that needs another answer: how are we addressing extremism? We are addressing extremism to bring normalcy into change the mindsets of the people who then spawn terrorism. This is a small minority, by the way.
Now, Mr. President, you indicated that the elections on February 16th or 18th are going forward, and a political evolution will then start. How would you anticipate that evolution to evolve, and how would it relate to the overall situation in the region?
Firstly, what I didn't say, I would like to give out very briefly. The important thing is we have to have the elections. They have to be fair and transparent. Now, inherently, I said the system is fair and transparent, in that whatever bugs there were have been removed also. And that also has been done by me and my government. Now there is a caretaker government in place, which was never then before. And it is under the caretaker government that the election will take place. If anyone talks against them, it's better than having the same government in place, which would have been certainly, from the fairness point of view, it would have been seen to be more unfair. Then there was talk that there used to be gerrymandering of constituencies. We have not allowed any delimitation of constituencies. There was also an issue of ghost polling stations. All polling stations have been notified and they are on the internet. There was talk of the electoral rolls being tampered. The electoral rolls have been notified and they are on the internet for the world to see. There was talk that between the returning officers and the Election Commission, where the result used to be announced by the Election Commission, there is some manipulation done. The law now says that the returning officer will declare the result. And then may I also add, lastly, a system that existed, that at the lowest level, the presiding officer level, there are polling agents of every candidate contesting sitting inside the polling station, and the presiding officer shows the ballot box to them empty and seals it. For the first time, we've changed the wooden boxes into transparent boxes and bought them and spent money. And then voting is cast, ballots are cast in front of those polling agents, and the papers are counted in front of the polling agents, and that it is notified. So this is the system. I keep asking everyone, please give me one more suggestion, and I would be the gladdest person to pass it on to the Election Commission for implementation. So what more can one do to ensure fairness and transparency of the elections? So this is as far as the elections are concerned. Now beyond that, ladies and gentlemen, we must understand, we have a constitution, and we are following our constitution, and in our system, it's a parliamentary system. The president has certain powers according to the Constitution of Pakistan, but he does not, repeat, does not run the government. Government is run by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is the chief executive. So a lot of people are asking me, how will you have the coalition? I am not supposed to have coalition. It's the Prime Minister who has to go for coalition. And how does the Prime Minister come after 18 February? There will be elections. If any party wins an election to be able to form the government, has a simple majority, they will form the government, they will have a Prime Minister. And if there is a hung parliament, then there will be a coalition and they will have a Prime Minister. If I can facilitate a coalition for the sake of harmony in Pakistan, I don't mind doing that. But otherwise, the coalition has to be between the parties. So I have been elected as the president by the parliament, and mind you, this election of the president is much more than the election of the prime minister. The prime minister gets elected by the National Assembly alone. The president gets elected in Pakistan through the Senate, National Assembly and 4 provincial assemblies of Pakistan. All of them vote. And that is how they voted and gave me 57% of the vote. So I have been voted as the president. And there will be a prime minister emerging out of the election process on 18 February. And that is how Pakistan will be. And I am very sure I am not a difficult person to work with. And I don't find any difficulty in working with anyone. And I'm reasonably sure, I'm very sure, whoever wins will form the government, whether it is the opposition or the government coalition or anyone. And one would like to coexist for the sake of stability and prosperity of Pakistan.
Well, Mr. President, you have given us a very full and very hopeful picture of the situation and of the future. And we all hope that it moves in the direction that you have described. Thank you very much for this opportunity to meet you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's an honor to have met you.